This is not a video game. This is not Hollywood. This is 100% real. This is XP1K.
The Mojave Desert, home to the hottest place on Earth, Death Valley. It is covered with burning sand, razor-sharp stone, piercing cactus, and suffocating silt. Without question, it is the most inhospitable region in the United States, with temperatures soaring above 120 degrees. Within its massive canyons and parched lake beds lays the jewel of the silver state of Nevada, Sin City, Las Vegas, an oasis unlike any other. Every year, the most talented and passionate off-road racers from around the world return to Vegas and her outlying Badlands. They come to test their will by competing in the most punishing and savage off-road race on the planet. This year, nearly 1,000 competitors, spanning 323 race teams and 24 classes of purpose-built off-road race vehicles, will represent 14 different countries. They will wage war against each other and the legendary 400-mile course. They will risk it all, yet less than half of them will make it to the finish line.
This race is brutal. You're gonna tear up equipment. Already carnage everywhere.
It's like the most all-American punk rock mosh pit mayhem. That's what makes the Mint 400 great.
It's the most challenging race that's going to be run this year.
I mean, it's survival. This is the Mint 400.
Your biggest competition is the race itself.
General Tire presents a Best of the Desert Championship race. Produced by Mad Media. Executive producer Travis Roffler. Directed by the Martelli brothers. The Great American Off-Road Race. The General Tire Mint 400. In 1967, Norm Johnson organized the first ever Mint 400 off-road rally to promote and publicize the Mint Hotel. Norm sent 2 matching dune buggies across 600 miles of scorching desert, from the Mint Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, to the Sahara Hotel in Tahoe, California. The coverage by the national media caught the attention of race teams and off-road enthusiasts everywhere, and the endurance race became famous overnight. The very next year, Norm got help from his friends, world-renowned race car drivers Mel Larson and Parnelli Jones, to help promote the race. The Mint 400 quickly grew into a massive annual Las Vegas attraction. Off-road champions Mickey Thompson, Ivan Stewart, Jack Flannery, Walker Evans, and Rod Hall competed in the Mint, alongside Indianapolis 500 winners Al Unser, Rick Mears, Roger Ward, and movie and television stars James Garner and Steve McQueen.
The historical aspect of the Mint is just absolutely crazy. When you think about some of the legends that have raced here, you know, whether it's Rodney Hall or Jack Johnson or Bobby Farrell, Ivan Stewart, they've all been here. And you want to win the race overall.
In 1971, the race was brilliantly and humorously written about in Hunter S. Thompson's article for Rolling Stone magazine titled Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Hunter wrote, "In some circles, the Mint 400 is a far, far better thing than the Super Bowl, the Kentucky Derby, and the Lower Oakland Roller Derby finals, all rolled into one. This race attracts a very special breed."
This race has been around since I was born, you know? I mean, it's been around since the beginning. I know it really well. It's just something, it's like American big race in America. It's like the one race that it's just patriotic and it's just so cool to be at when you come here. And that's one reason why we're running a lot of colors on our truck too. It's patriotic, you know?
When I was in junior high school, I used to ditch school, ride my bicycle down here and watch all the cars go through, and you know, always wanted to get involved and race the Mint 400, and my first Mint 400 was 1982, and ever since then I've been addicted to off-road racing.
The Fear and Loathing articles were adapted into a novel and later made into a feature film in 1998 starring Benicio del Toro and Johnny Depp. It became a cult classic, solidifying the Mint's place in American pop culture. The Mint 400 was again thrust into the media spotlight in 1972 when Mint Hotel executive K.J. Howe produced The Girls of the Mint 400, which became an internationally recognized beauty contest that launched the careers of Linda Carter and Vanna White. The race continued to thrive and grow until 1988 when the Mint Hotel was sold and the race organizers disbanded. The Mint went quiet for nearly 20 years, but was resurrected by longtime sponsor General Tire, with help from the Southern Nevada Off-Road Enthusiasts Group. Snore eventually sold the franchise to film and television producers Matt and Joshua Martelli, marking the next significant chapter in the Mint's evolution. In 2012, the Martelli brothers partnered with off-road industry veteran Casey Folks, owner of the largest off-road desert racing organization in the world, the Best in the Desert Racing Association. The Mint was added to the Best in the Desert Championship schedule, and a new 100-mile race loop was carved out for the epic 400-mile contest. In most motorsports, including Formula One, Grand Am, NASCAR, and World Rally, the race cars and drivers are not accessible to the public. They're fenced off and hidden in VIP paddocks. The opposite is true at the Mint 400. Each year, an entire day is dedicated to sharing the amazing group of off-road vehicles, and they're paraded down world-famous Fremont Street in downtown Las Vegas.
So we are at the world-famous Fremont Street and the Fremont Street Experience. I mean, look at the crowd that's around us. We're here on a Friday afternoon, and we're getting ready to start the Mint 400, baby.
We're in Vegas, it's Mint 400 time, so biggest race in the United States, and just fired up to be here on Fremont Street, taking the sights, getting ready to wage war.
Fans are encouraged to take pictures, get autographs, and talk with the race teams and drivers.
We're here on Fremont Street. It's great. There are a lot of people who aren't normally exposed to off-road racing get to see these fantastic race cars for the first time. They're stoked. They're coming up. They're asking us questions about this stuff. It's really exciting.
This year, contingency ended in front of the host hotel, the Golden Nugget. Contingency is also a chance for old friends to catch up, for vendors to share their products with the community, and most importantly, to put each vehicle through a thorough safety inspection known as tech.
We got all the tech contingency, a bunch of vendors, girls signing stuff for General Tire, a bunch of different stuff going on, and it's a wild time. There's some characters running around here that are pretty crazy, so there's always something to do down here. It's a fun deal just coming to this right here all alone.
This year, the number of entries swelled to an astounding 323 race teams, making the Mint 400 the largest off-road race in the world. Each car was carefully inspected by the professionals at Best in the Desert for both safety and compliance with their class restrictions.
We're standing right on Fremont Street, downtown Las Vegas, where the original Mint 400 tech and contingency was. This brings back the memories of when it first started, a great family sport.
You know, my earliest memories are going with my dad down here, bringing his buggy and, you know, pushing it through contingency. So for me, it's kind of fulfilling a lifelong dream.
As the sun set over Las Vegas, Fremont Street came alive. For the first time ever, 40 of the Mint 400 unlimited race vehicles were allowed to drive down the center of Fremont Street so that race fans and spectators could hear the rumble of the unrestricted 800 horsepower race motors. Seeing a trophy truck up close is thrilling, but hearing one in person is incredible. Off-road racing is a team sport. A talented driver won't get far without a seasoned crew of specialists and never-say-die volunteers. To recognize the unsung heroes of off-road racing, the Martelli brothers featured a brand new event this year called the KMC Wheels Pit Crew Challenge. 16 pit crews from the top unlimited truck teams competed in a head-to-head battle to decide who had the best crew. Each of the three-man teams were given one jack, one impact gun, and one spare tire.
Pit Crew Challenge for the Mint 400! Round of applause for Mikey Jonas, Ricky Johnson, and James Walker.
The team who completed 2 tire changes the fastest advanced to the next round.
Well, cheer him on, crowd. This is an spectator sport.
Over 10,000 spectators on Fremont Street showed up to cheer on the teams.
Cheers to the number 35, General Tire Trick Truck.
After several close and heated rounds, the General Tire THR team, which included drivers Mikey Childress, Rick Johnson, and crew member James Walker, outpitted the field to win the inaugural KMC Wheels Pit Crew Challenge.
Official winners of the Mint 400 Pit Crew Challenge is going to go to the Rick Johnson team. Rick Johnson, Mikey Childress, and James Jimmy Walker.
The Miss Mint contest is the premier beauty contest in motorsports, and this year it was made even better. The prize purses were increased dramatically, driving up the number of entrants to nearly double from previous years. The contingent of beautiful off-road women competed for a combination of online votes and judges' votes. After a heated online battle and tens of thousands of votes, the competition was narrowed down to 3 lucky ladies. The talented Vanessa Golub-Ferraro was picked as the 2012 General Tire Miss Mint. She walked away with $5,000 and a Dirt Sports magazine cover photo shoot. 2 days before the Mint 400, a short 4-mile time trial is held to determine the starting positions for the race. This year, a record 68 unlimited vehicles entered to qualify. The ultra-technical course was far more difficult and treacherous than previous years. It was a brutal mix of massive whoops, rock washes, silty corners, and big jumps that was hand-picked and marked off by Off-Road Hall of Fame inductee and Best in the Desert director, Casey Folks.
We're out here at the 2012 Mint 400. The time trials should be starting here shortly, and everyone's getting ready to go. I can hear the cars back there running, so should be taking off any minute.
The course out here is going to be fun. It's going to be 3 miles long. We're going for that top spot. I want that #1 pole position.
You know, it's going to be our first time running a Class 1100s out here with the big boys. And just being out here and being, you know, sandwiched between Rick Johnson and Childress doesn't get any better than that, you know. We usually don't get an opportunity like this, so. But yeah, it's going to be a great day.
Qualifying, I'm just going to give it all I got, you know. I want to be in the top 5 starting on race day. And, you know, there's 30 guys here that are capable of being first. So, you know, you're really going to have to put their foot down and go for it.
Visibility is always an issue in off-road racing. Those who qualify well start closer to the front of the pack and can run a faster pace because they have clean air. Both in 2010 and 2011, the fastest qualifier won the Mint, so start position is critical.
We're at the stage now with trophy trucks that, you know, you have to go. This is 100%. It's what it is, so no excuses.
It really puts yourself as a driver and the vehicle to a test. I mean, if you want to start up front, these guys are so competitive right now that you have to be on it. No mistakes. You make one mistake, and I tell you, it's the difference between first and 20th. So you can't lose any seconds here at all.
Everybody goes for it, so we're going to have to, you know, really step it up.
If you screw up in qualifying and you get into the back, you're going to be fighting dust all day long from the green flag to the checkered.
As far as qualifying goes, I love it. It's fun. It gets your heart pumping, and you're generally driving the wheels off the car. You know, you're trying to go harder than you would generally in the race.
I love this rough qualifying loop. It puts everyone in the same playing field. It's rough. You got to have a good setup, and you got to drive the truck hard.
You got to be on your game. I can tell you every one of us will make mistakes today. If you're not making mistakes, you're not on it. So it's just how bad the mistakes are and how good you keep things under control.
Anything can happen. It could go both ways. You could damage the truck, and you got a lot of work to do to get out of that. But at the same time, you reap the reward if you have a really good run.
The qualifying race this year was spectacular. Competitors pushed their vehicles to the absolute limit. Trophy truck driver Jason Voss rolled violently as he neared the final stretch of his qualifying run. Miraculously, he landed on all 4 wheels, but a flat tire and damage to his rear end forced him to stop and repair the truck.
What?
It was deja vu for Voss, who destroyed his truck last year after crashing on a tricky tabletop during qualifying. This year, Jason was determined to run a more conservative pace, but was bitten again by the mint. He managed to repair his truck, though, and did qualify. Robbie Gordon laid down a blistering qualifying pace, pushing so hard that he flew outside the finish line gate, which he then accidentally backed over while trying to ensure his time was recorded. In the end, he qualified second. TJ Flores showed how Las Vegas natives pass in the dirt, which earned him a top 5 qualifying spot. Cameron Steele flipped his way across the finish line with so much speed that he scored the 3rd fastest qualifying time of the day. It was Cameron who had a scare back in 2010 during qualifying on the very same tabletop that claimed Jason Voss, proving once again that when you hang it all out, you risk losing it all. All 68 of the top unlimited drivers took their best shot, but it was Las Vegas native Rob McCachran in the number 6 Corona trophy truck who qualified fastest. A mere 5 seconds separated the top 3 qualifiers, and the top 20 drivers were all within 20 seconds of each other. The stage was set for an epic battle between the ultra-competitive field of racers. Cameron Steele is off-road racing's unofficial ambassador. When he's not in a race car or on a bike, he is constantly organizing trips to Baja to share his love of off-road racing and Mexico. A second-generation off-road racer, Cameron grew up racing everything from bikes to buggies. After winning championships in multiple classes, Cameron now fields a team of multiple race cars with his crew, the Desert Assassins.
Off-road racing's in the Steele DNA, you know? It was like a full-on in with both feet with my family, you know? My dad took us to the races starting in '71, and then by 1982, I was navigating, co-piloting for him, Johnny Johnson, who at the time was the winningest driver in Baja 1000 history, or in the 80s he was, and a guy named Roy Allen. So where I learned to drive was from those 3 guys who had won a ton of races. So 82 I started navigating, and then in 85 I started driving, and from there it's just pretty much history. I drove full-time from 85 until I think 92, and my mom had cancer and the family stopped racing until I came back around 2001. You know, after my mom was sick and my dad gave up his career, his business to stay with my mom, she lived for 6 years fighting cancer. And, you know, after that time, I kind of had to like figure out what I was gonna do. You know, I ended up selling cars. I had ridden waves and ridden dirt bikes professionally and raced cars, and I really had no like direction or avenue. So I started selling cars, and that got me working for Joe McPherson. And, you know, kind of going by the race shop all the time over there kind of got my juices flowing again. And then I had an opportunity, I think in 2000 or 2001, to come back and drive a 1600 car with my friend Dave Hendrickson. I really owe him a lot for getting me back into desert racing, but I knew that we'd eventually be back in the desert. It's just a matter of when. Of course, once I started doing television commentary and making some money doing that, you know, it started opening up avenues, and then also people start to recognize you from that, so there's opportunities that present themselves. It was pretty cool to get a little bit of nod for being an X Games announcer, but at the same time, you know, my roots are in off-road racing, so it wasn't like announcer dork decides to go racing. It's like racer has to grow up, get a job, and then gets to go back and go racing. The Desert Assassins is something that, you know, we were a group of guys just kind of hanging out in the desert, and I came up with the name Desert Assassins, and people that were around me at the time were like kind of like scratching their heads. They're like, I don't know. And I thought it was just controversial enough where people would remember it. And obviously I saw the development of Metal Militia over the years. I called Brian and Larry friends for a long time, and I saw what they did with the brand, and I just saw the family atmosphere, and that's exactly what the Desert Assassins is all about. You know, I mean, we're not copying what the militia does, but I see how they were a group of guys that were tight, and that's what the Desert Assassins are about. It's about the whole family. For me, I'm just me. You know, I grew up riding waves, I grew up riding dirt bikes, I grew up in off-road race cars, and I'm just me. You know, I like to have fun, I like to carry on, I like to have fun people around me. If my bill's flat, my hat's sideways, you know, go ahead and judge me for whatever you think I am, you know? I'm not Ivan Stewart, I'm not Robbie Gordon, I'm not gonna be those guys, I'm Cameron Steele, that's me, you know? And my crew, Desert Assassins, they're their crew. You know, they're whoever they want to be. You know, sometimes you can look at our program and maybe we have some of the outcasts. You know, maybe we're the race team of broken toys at times, as I like to say. You know, but who cares? We're putting in a big effort, and people that know that we're racing for the front of the pack. Well, the Desert Assassins are sure a hell of a lot more than just trophy truck racers. I mean, we have trophy truck racers. You know, we have two here, the 14 and 16, myself and Josh Daniel, Mike Johnson, Pat Dean. You know, a few of us race the trophy trucks. The Ashcraft family is part of the Desert Assassins. They race trophy truck. They also race Class 10 and 1600, and that's kind of the crux of what the Desert Assassins is about. You know, I race trophy trucks. I race 12 cars, 16 cars, still racing bikes. I mean, the Desert Assassins are about more than just one thing. We're about the whole desert. You know, and so I think it's cool that we can represent so many different classes. My drive is not financial, you know, I mean, yeah, we need sponsors and money to pay for the race trucks and to pay to go on rides and stuff, but my drive is just to share what it's all about, have people see the peninsula, see the desert, see short course racing, whatever it is. And I'm just so stoked to share it. You know, I do this because it's my passion, because it's in my heart, and it's because I never get tired of going to the desert. I never wake up and say, I wish I didn't have to go to the desert today, you know? It's funny coming from a kid that grew up at the beach, but I love being in the Baja.
This year's race was held on a brand new 100-mile course located just outside of Las Vegas. It featured several colossal silt beds, jagged rock gardens, graded high-speed rally roads, and a dry lake bed that allowed for flat-out speeds near 130 miles per hour. There was plenty to satisfy and thrill drivers and fans, as 5 new spectating areas were added to bring the crowds closer to the action. The Mint 400 is a lap race, and each 100-mile loop takes a minimum of 90 minutes to complete. Some of the slower, limited-class vehicles may take up to 2 to 3 times that long, and so several safety features were put in place to ensure the well-being of all the competitors. The field of 323 cars were broken into 2 race groups, the slower, more nimble limited group and the faster unlimited vehicles. The limited vehicles group began their race at 6 in the morning and were required to finish by 3 p.m., while the group of unlimited vehicles started at noon and were required to finish by 11:30 p.m. The 14 different classes that made up the limited vehicles group are known as the drivers' classes, and they are the unsung heroes of the sport of off-road racing. Some of the most heated racing comes in these classes because they are relatively cheap to build, and that draws a large number of entrants. Class restrictions keep the power of the vehicles within range of each other, so no one competitor can have a superior advantage. It is truly more about what the driver can do and less about the vehicle itself. Racing in these cars is more difficult than the unlimited classes because they have less horsepower and less suspension travel. This year marked the first time UTVs were included in the Mint 400, and they were added to the limited class group. UTVs have evolved radically in the last decade from utility vehicles into full-fledged race cars, and at an average off-road race, typically finish ahead of more than half of the race pack. The Mint had over 30 UTV race cars representing all the major manufacturers, including local favorites, Polaris-sponsored Jagged X Racing and Can-Am factory-backed Coastal Racing. The start of the Mint 400 opened with the limited race cars and began staging at 5 a.m. The fastest cars within the limited class began first. And as each vehicle left the starting line, the course became more and more deteriorated. The lack of wind meant that the silt and dust would become an issue right away. The cool darkness of the Nevada night slowly gave way to a glorious sunrise that cast a radiant spotlight on the unholy course that lay before them. There were 26 Class 10 cars, 25 Jeep Speed vehicles, and 28 UTVs entered as well, making the competition throughout the morning race wildly exciting. Some of the unlimited racers, such as Cameron Steele, Robbie Gordon, and Rob McCachran, entered race cars in the limited race. They did this to pre-run or preview the course before their main race later in the day, and this was completely legal according to both the Mint and Best in the Desert race rules. In Class 10 Light, Brian Folks had a fantastic lap 1, starting in 11th place and rocketing out to 5th in his number 1178 car. Ronnie Wilson had a terrific early run as well, starting 9th and moving all the way out to 3rd. Blaze Jackson, meanwhile, started 2nd and maintained his position. Jeep Speed 1 saw one of the tightest races of the day develop. First place starter Eric Helgeson in his 1708 Jeep jumped out front right away, but was closely followed by 6th place starter number 1716 Michael Vernack, who moved into 2nd on lap 1. Todd Jackson in the 1712 car started 11th, passed 4 vehicles, and moved into 3rd place on his opening lap. Eric Trondle put on a clinic in the sportsman class, starting 10th and moving to 2nd on his first lap. Meanwhile, in the new UTV Pro class, Jason Murray of the Can-Am X-Team car number 1917 moved from a starting position of 18th all the way to 1st during the first 100 miles of the race. Matt Parks of Polaris Jagged X Racing showcased his veteran driving skills, climbing from 24th to 14th by passing 10 cars in the morning heat. In Jeep Speed 3, seasoned racer Darren Skilton in the number 3707 truck started in the lead and looked fast and steady. Bob Mamer in the 3704 truck stayed within seconds of Darren the entire first lap, but Darren began to pull away in lap 2. In the Trophy Light class, veteran Steve Hengeveld started 7th, but moved quickly to 1st place. He opened up an impressive 20-minute lead over the next truck by the end of lap 2. Number 6001 Troy Messer stood out as well for starting 12th and moving into 3rd. Troy battled back and forth with number 6020 Brandon Hollander all day. As the limited classes continued to battle each other for position, the heat, dust, and course conditions became more and more challenging. It became harder and harder to navigate, and lap traffic became more intense. While the limited race cars began to finish the morning race, the unlimited teams arrived to the main pit area, unloaded their vehicles, and began to stage at the starting line.
You know, we did the sportsman race this morning, and the course is brutal. It's going to take some people out, and it's going to cause a lot of flats, and we're just going to stay in line and be smart, not make any mistakes in the dust, and we're going to be around on the 4th lap to go race.
You know, right now I think our car's real good. I think Cameron's real good. We're going to be fighting for that clear racetrack. One thing I'll tell you though is Rob has a big advantage. We went for it in qualifying because if you can do that first car on the road, it's 5-minute head start.
I'm pretty excited to start 4th off the line at the Mint 400. To be up front is going to help out a lot. The dust out there is really bad. We got to stay cautious, don't get any flats. I think we can finish on top today.
The fastest qualifying team of Rob McEachran and Steve Serapis in their number 6 Corona Beer-sponsored trophy truck were lined up in the number 1 position. Rob earned the coveted starting spot and did not have to race against another truck off the line. Meanwhile, Robbie Gordon and Cameron Steele were lined up in the 2nd row against each other, door to door, with a field of 164 anxious racers, all matched in groups of 2 behind them. This year's race was stacked with 32 trophy trucks and 47 Class 1 cars, making it the biggest off-road race in recent history. The Mint 400 Grand Marshal and co-founder Mel Larson and the 2012 Miss Mint, Vanessa Golub-Ferrara, dropped the green flag and started the race. The trucks rocketed off the start and drag raced into turn 1. Then they had to power through a massive S-shaped silt bed before exiting onto the main course. Mayhem ensued as several trucks got stuck right off the bat. Rob McEachran managed to make it through the silt unscathed and was followed closely by the number 16 truck of Cameron Steele and the number 1537 Truggy of Robbie Gordon. Directly behind him were TJ Flores, Adam Householder, Mark Weirich, Derek Sproul, Dale Dondell, Mikey Childress, and Jake Johnson, who had all qualified in the top 10. The entire field took the course by 1 p.m., turning the Nevada desert into a battleground. Las Vegas native and 2011 Mint 400 champion Ballistic B.J. Baldwin had a disappointing qualifying run that put him in the 67th starting position. Since the Mint 400 is a timed race, it was still possible for BJ to win on corrected time, but with so many trucks in front of him, the task was daunting. However, within the first 36 miles, BJ passed an astounding 51 vehicles. Having won the race once before, he remained a constant threat to the race leaders. Rick D. Johnson in the number 71 General Tire trophy truck experienced a freak accident near mile 8 when he caught a ditch sideways coming into a turn and rolled over at high speed. Rick recovered and pressed on. Meanwhile, back at the front of the pack, Rob McEachran built a 2-minute lead over Robbie Gordon, who stayed just outside of his dust trail. Cameron Steele remained on Robbie's tail much the same way, with number 24 Householder and number 9 Weirich right behind them. TJ Flores, who was the 2nd fastest Class 1 qualifier, was already having issues and lost time with electrical problems. Mikey Childress passed TJ and 4 other race cars to move from 9th to 4th place. Justin Lofton moved from 23rd to 8th during an impressive lap 1. But it was Harley Lepner who failed to make qualifying and started near the back of the entire pack that stunned the field by passing more than 25 vehicles during lap 1.
He's 5 minutes behind 2nd place. We can't catch Robbie, but he started up first. We started 100 cars back, and Harley's driving a great race. He's going for it right now. We don't like 2nd, but it's better than 3rd.
Class 10 featured 25 race vehicles this year. Brian Potts, number 1019, started 15th and managed to pass the entire field ahead of him, taking the lead in class, while number 1058, Tony Smiley, moved from 17th off the line to 2nd. And in the 7200 class, which featured 33 competitors, Al Hogan in his number 7226 truck moved from 23rd to 3rd, just behind number 7265 Sean Backus and lap 1 leader number 7286 David Caspino. In Class 8, Kent Croker, who has never had good luck at the Mint, was bit again by mechanical issues. He had problems with his torque converter that resulted in power loss, and he slipped from 1st to 5th during lap 1. For Croker, a Class 8 champion, pushing on in the face of adversity is nothing new. He began his off-road career while serving in the U.S. Marine Corps as a pilot, and has brought the same never-say-die philosophy to his race team. Founder of Core Off-Road Engineering, a manufacturer of off-road suspension for street trucks, Kent has found a way to mix business with pleasure.
We are in the top secret Core race bunker in North County, San Diego, prepping for the Mint 400. The interesting thing about Core, our business, and the parts that we make, and racing is sort of like a little circle of life. The objective is to be self-supportive or sustainable. Basically, we take the lessons that we learn from racing, and we learn a lot from racing, because really you can't use finite element analysis and computer modeling to determine how a tire and a suspension component and or control arm will respond to every different size of whoop and rock out there at every different speed. So the knowledge that we get from racing rolls right into our products, and then the products that we sell drives the race effort. For 12 years as an active duty Marine, I got to do some really fun stuff. As a pilot, a C-130 pilot during non-wartime in the 90s, we got to fly around doing all the secret squirrel stuff. Really exciting. I've flown all over the world. I had a really great military career, but the biggest problem with the Marine Corps for me was you go and you do a mission, you do an operation, you do some kind of thing, but you can't do it consistently. And the problem is there's always been this drive in me to continuously be stimulated with that, a need to get in the arena. And so even on active duty, every year I was racing the Baja 500, the Baja 1000. I won the San Felipe 250 on a dirt bike as an active duty Marine pilot, which is kind of odd because I think that a lot of people would have been sufficiently stimulated by their regular job, and I just wasn't. It's almost like it's an emotional thing that we have that drives us to do this, because, I mean, most of what we do isn't fun. It's fun to drive a race car fast, and it's fun to go out and race and compete, but for the amount of time that we put in, the amount of effort that we put in, it's something that has to come from inside you. You're sitting behind the wheel of a truck like this that weighs 6,000 pounds and has 900 horsepower and can do things, the most amazing kind of stuff, more amazing than any other vehicle on earth, is a truck like this. When you're sitting there and you're wielding this thing like an axe in battle, and it's an amazing feeling, and it fills you with all kinds of chemicals, testosterone and adrenaline and things that, I mean, I've never done drugs. I've done my own drugs. You know, the stuff that my own body makes, I love it. I gotta have the real deal, and that's what off-road racing is to me and my crew. It's my gang against the other gang. It's my tribe against their tribe. You know, it's my weapon of mass destruction against their weapon of mass destruction. I love that. It's war, and that's probably the closest thing I can do to answer that question, why race off-road. I was a little kid when I heard about the Mint 400. I mean, that's one of the cool things about it. It has legendary status in my mind, and when they brought it back a few years ago, it was like the greatest honor ever to sit on the starting line of that race and go off and participate. What I like most about the Mint is the same thing that I hate the most about the Mint, and that is how gnarly and heinous the course is. I mean, that is like the love-hate thing, because if you go out there and you don't drive in a disciplined way and you mess up, well, you suck. and then you have to live with being a loser, and you have to live with not finishing and not winning. But if you go out there and you do well, and you're smart and precise, and you make good decisions behind the wheel, and the team is all functioning well, and you win, that makes it all the sweeter because that course was so tough. So that's the love-hate. I love it because it's the roughest race I've ever run, and I also hate it because it's the roughest race I've ever run.
The race leaders finished lap 1 and came through the main pit for fuel and tires. Rob McCachran remained 2 minutes ahead of Robbie Gordon, followed by Cameron Steele and Adam Householder, who was a mere 4 seconds behind him. Mark Wyrick was 30 seconds behind, eyeing the lead pack. As the vehicles came into the pit, what should have been a routine, quick exchange of tires turned into disaster for Cameron Steele. Cameron's rear hub had sprung a leak that soaked his brakes, which caught on fire, forcing his crew to douse them with a fire extinguisher.
Cameron came in on the first lap in the 16 truck. We found out he had a rear hub leaking, so we decided to change that. Found out the third member was bad too. So we're about an hour and 15 down from changing those. So Cameron's out there. I think he's going to come, maybe get out this lap, and maybe jump in the 14th for the last lap.
Tire and fuel strategy are critical in off-road racing. Some vehicles can go 200 miles without refueling, while others have to stop every 100. Less stops means faster lap times. Adam Householder decided not to pit after lap 1 and drove right past Cameron Steele. As lap 2 unfolded, the Mint began to claim more and more victims. Scott Whipple, driver of the number 95 Candidate Trophy truck, started 23rd and moved up to 12th on lap 1, but blew his engine suddenly on lap 2 while trying to pass another competitor. Lap 2 also claimed Jerry Zayden, Greg the Muscle Hamster Godfrey, Will Statz, and Scott Foster. In Class 1, 5 vehicles were taken out, proving that the Mint was anything but a smooth ride. In the 7200 class, Eduardo Laguna moved from 4th into 1st, while many of the early 7200 class leaders began to fall off the pace, and 1/3 of their class were already out of the race. The race leaders completed half of the epic 400-mile marathon and came into the main pit. The teams added gas and changed tires, and as they left, the race order remained unchanged for the top 3. Rob McCachran remained out front with Robbie Gordon in 2nd and Householder in 3rd. Chris Kemp had moved into 4th, and Juan Carlos Lopez was in 5th. B.J. Baldwin, who started near the back of the trophy truck pack, moved past another 10 vehicles on lap 2 and was sitting in 8th place. A come-from-behind victory on corrected time was not out of the question for the Las Vegas local. In Class 1, Mikey Childress sat in 3rd behind Dale Dondell. Mikey's no stranger to the Mint. He won his class last year and finished 3rd overall. He hails from a solid background in bike racing and at one time was a star athlete on the coveted Honda A-Team. Some of the best off-road racers in history got their start racing bikes, and Mikey made the transition to 4 wheels without missing a beat.
We're here at THR Motorsports in Corona, California, where our Class 1 car and our motorcycle team is prepped and maintained. A lot of people want to know what THR Motorsports is. What it is Team Hoosier Racing. We have our CNC company, Hoosier, just around the corner from us, and we have 70 CNC machines, I believe, and 160 employees, 250,000 square foot buildings. And we have our race shop over here, so we can still utilize the CNC machines company when we need to do stuff for the race team. I race our Class 1 car, or 1500 car. It is a Porter chassis. It's powered with a Croyer 400 cubic inch, 600 horsepower motor, King shocks, Fortin 5-speed transmission. It's all managed by Motec, rigid lights. It's a pretty kick-ass weapon, and we've got her dialed in, and we're ready to attack and take the desert on. For me, racing Class 1, for one, there just seems to regularly be more competitors. I believe a Class 1 car is harder to drive than a trophy truck. With a Class 1 car, you're up on the wheel, you're driving the thing, you're shifting the thing, you're constantly 2-footing it, and you're trying to set it up. And I feel that from driving both, that the Class 1 car is harder to drive. So I like it. It's more of a challenge in my eyes. There's just more of a package that it takes to be fast in one of these, I believe. I've started off my career racing motorcycles, and I made the transition, not at the end of my motorcycle career, but through the middle and into the car career. The transition's been, I picked it up pretty quick. I still drive the car as if I was riding a motorcycle. I pick similar lines. A lot of people have ridden with me that ride in a trophy truck or ride in Class 1 cars, and they always ask me, well, what are you going around those rocks for? Like, man, that rock would kill you on a motorcycle. It may not do anything to a car, but you still have that mentality, and you still have that thought of, man, I can't hit that rock, I can't hit that square edge, I can't hit that. Even though you can, we still think like a motorcycle racer, and we save the car. We don't take unnecessary chances. Some people that have no background with motorcycles just get in these cars and put their foot to the floor and hope they stay together. As a motorcycle racer, you get in the car, you make it stay together, you make it to the finish. For me, competing in off-road racing, it's just the challenge. You know, I've raced motocross, I've raced, you know, a lot of circle type events, and off-road racing is, every turn is different, every bump is different. You're racing from daytime through the nighttime, back into the daytime, and just the change in weather, terrain. The competitors are never doing the same thing, so you're always experiencing something new. So for me, it's just strictly the challenge and not knowing what is going to be around the next corner, over the next blind rise. I just like the unexpected. The reason why the Mint 400 is so special for me is simply because it has a name as good, or if not better, than the Baja 1000 or Paris to Dakar. The history of the Mint 400, you know, drivers such as Mickey Thompson, Walker Evans, people of that caliber that were racing in this race and winning, to be in the history books with those type of names is the reason why I go to the Mint 400 and I want to race and I want to win. So that's why the Mint 400 is special to me. So everybody's going to be gunning for the guy that won it last year. You know, they all know that you know how to do it, and they know that you know how to put it together, so you've got a big bullseye on your back. I know how to win this race. I've won it before, and you know, these guys got to figure it out. So there's really no pressure for me. I'll see you at the finish line.
Right now we are, I believe, 5th overall, 3rd lap, and 2nd in class behind Robbie Gordon. Game plan is just balls out, Mikey style. Car is strong. I told him to run his race and do what he has to do.
Racing is passing. Yet, because most desert races are point-to-point, there's a limited amount in the sport, and it's rare to see passing happen as a spectator. But at the Mint 400, not only does the format ensure passing, it adds another set of challenges to the drivers as they manage the complexity involved in passing safely in the dust and rocks at speeds in excess of 100 miles per hour. During lap 3, a dramatic shift in the race took place. Race leader Rob McCachran in the number 6 Corona beer-sponsored trophy truck pulled into pit 1 and turned driving duties over to his partner, Steven Serapis. They maintained their lead after pitting. However, miles later, when Steve tried to pass a 10 car, he blew a tire and was forced to pull over. He changed his flat in less than a minute, but it was enough for Robbie Gordon to get around him and take the lead. Meanwhile, Mark Wyrick in the number 9 trophy truck passed number 24 Adam Householder and built a 4-minute lead over him during lap 3. Juan Carlos Lopez and Sean Kroll each climbed several spots and put pressure on the lead pack. In Class 1, Justin Lofton and Harley Lettner both hustled on lap 3, moving past 3 cars each into 4th and 5th place. In many desert races, teams are allowed to have their chase crews assist them with mechanical failure, but not at the Mint. In order to keep a level playing field between small and large race teams, the drivers are on their own to fix mechanical issues. Race teams are not allowed outside assistance unless they're in a designated pit area. This makes just completing the Mint a challenge, as 75% of the field will experience some sort of mechanical issue due to the high pace and extreme terrain. No matter how well you build an off-road vehicle, the odds of something failing are always great when pushed to the limit. Kent Croker and his crew are dealing with multiple mechanical issues.
Keep that medium pace. We just welded up the rear differential housing. We had a crack that had started to go around the circumference of the differential housing. My co-driver's badass. He got out of the truck and just started grinding and welding immediately after being hammered for 200 miles. It's a struggle. And what makes it great is a team like this who just goes, we don't even care, we're just gonna go for it anyway.
Lap 3 ended for the lead pack at 4.5 hours into the race. The competitors had driven 300 miles in scorching heat and thick dust. But there was no time to rest. The final 100 miles lay before them, and race leader Robbie Gordon had a mere 2-minute lead over second place, Steve Serapis. The chase pack of trophy trucks was made up of Mark Ewing, who had climbed from the 26th starting spot all the way up to 6th place, Troy Herbst, who started 44th and now sat in 7th, and Steve Olagus, who started 17th held down 8th. Mikey Childress moved into 2nd place in Class 1, but was followed closely by Jake Johnson and Justin Lofton. In Class 10, Tony Smiley remained in 1st, followed by Chip Prescott and Philip Hainan. Robbie Gordon drove like a man possessed on lap 4. His Class 1 truggy was lightning fast, and though Steve Serapis pressed as hard as he could manage, he had a potential class win to consider when deciding how risky to drive. Adam Householder in the number 24 trophy truck passed number 9 Mark Wyrick to move into 2nd place in class and 3rd place overall. And Harley Letner dropped the pedal to the floor, passing Lofton, Johnson, and Childress to move into 2nd in Class 1 as time began to run out. Lap 4 consumed the bruised and battered trucks of B.J. Baldwin, Cameron Steele's number 16 truck, and James Horvath. T.J. Flores cracked his torque converter, pulled over, and walked 4 miles round trip to a pit for fluids to get his car back to main pit and end a disappointing day. As the minutes ticked down and the lead pack began to approach the end of the race, crews from the main pit began to gather at the finish line to cheer on their drivers. Casey Folks and his Best in the Desert team had run a flawless race all day, and they were glad to see the first group of finishers approach. As the dust settled, Robbie Gordon drove his number 1537 Class 1 truggy across the finish line with a time of 6 hours, 5 minutes, and 54 seconds, winning both Class 1 and overall. He had conquered the 2012 General Tire Mint 400.
You know, it's a big race. It was tough. 4 laps around here is brutal. The hoops were so big at the end. It's really about a team and having a good effort, and that's exactly what happened today.
Just 3 minutes behind Robbie, number 6 trophy truck driver Steven Serapis took the trophy truck class win and 2nd overall.
The last lap was brutal, absolutely, probably the roughest. I mean, I maybe had a few rougher mints on the north side, but that was brutal, absolutely brutal. I knew if I didn't have a problem, we'd be fine, but we did. That's what happens in off-road racing. I was hoping I'd see Robbie on the side of the road, you know, giving it back to us, but it wasn't meant to be. So I think, like I said, I've been doing this over 30 years. So, you know, pressure's what you put on yourself. I got a great truck, great partner, great crew. So, you know, sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're not. So I'll take the trick truck deal today.
Steve kept a solid pace the last 100 miles, edging out number 24 Adam Householder by 14 minutes. Mark Wyrick rounded out the trophy truck podium with a 3rd place finish.
I think we were running 2nd with 10 miles to go and got flat again. It was heartbreaking, and then Householder went by and we're like, oh man.
That last lap was so tore up. I feel bad for the people that are still going around. This is my 4th season in trick truck. To battle with these guys is awesome. And to know that I can keep up with them, man, that says a lot for my team, my father. We're a low-budget trophy truck team, and we're making it happen.
In Class 1, Harley Letner finished 2nd, just 2 minutes ahead of 3rd place Justin Lofton.
Coming out here and racing probably one of the most awesome races I've ever been a part of. Car worked great, General Tires worked great, Fox Racing shocks, Jimco, everything held up just the way it's supposed to, and glad we made it to the finish line at the Mint.
It would be another 5 hours before the entire field of racers crossed the finish. Unbelievably, some were still on their 2nd laps. For them, the darkness brought with it a new set of challenges. This year, awards were given to the fastest competitors by Mint 400 sponsor Oakley. Oakley Bomb Awards were earned by Aaron Howley in Class 1/2 1600, Blaze Jackson for the fastest time in the limited race, and Rob McCachran for the fastest unlimited lap time. Robbie Gordon and Blaze Jackson were also given Oakley watches for being winners in the limited and unlimited races. When the last racers crossed the finish line, the times were tallied, and the winners of the 2012 General Tire Mint 400 were: overall winner, Class 1, Robbie Gordon; Trophy Truck, Rob McCachran and Steve Serapis; Pro Truck, Troy Vest; Class 10, Tony Smiley; Class 7200, Eduardo Laguna; Class 8, Dave Westham; Class 5 Unlimited, Cody Kellogg; Class 10 Light, Blaze Jackson; Trophy Light, Steve Hengeveld; Class 1/2 1600, Bob Matthews; Desert Lights, Keith Weibel; Stock Full Truck SUV, Tim Casey; Ultra 4, Nick Nelson; Class 7 Stock Mini, Blake Henn; Class 5500, Greg Warnock; Open Sportsman, Eric Trundle; Jeep Speed 3, Darren Skilton; Jeep Speed 1, Eric Helgeson; Class 9000, Derek Dixon; Class 5100, Tom Bird; UTV Pro, Jason Murray; UTV Pro SR1, Richard J. Ratto; UTV Sportsman, Lucretia Bourrier. The Mint 400 returns to Las Vegas, Nevada next year on March 20th through the 24th. Visit us at themint400.com or on Facebook for more information.